Well, it was only for a game, but Brandin Podziemski and Jonathan Kuminga were kind of handed the keys to lead the Warriors with Butler, Curry, Horford, Moody, all down with either injury or rest. How did Podziemski and Kuminga fare? We're going to break down that. Steve Kerr gives his thoughts on their performance, plus the update on Jimmy Butler and Moses Moody. That is straight ahead on today's live edition of Locked On Warriors.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
How we feeling, everyone? Welcome to the Locked On Warriors, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, coming at you Monday through Friday. We go live after all the games, preseason included, and we talk some Golden State Warriors basketball. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can bet just $5. If your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. Head to FanDuel.com to get started. While I have you, hit that thumbs up. Very much appreciate it. Smash that subscribe. Tell a friend to tell a friend. It supports the show and allows us to continue to deliver Golden State Warriors content daily. On today's program, kind of a glimpse into the future, or not if Kuminga is indeed traded, like some have speculated, but a glimpse into what life would look like without Steph Curry in the preseason loss to the Lakers. We're going to break down how that looked. Jimmy Butler's ankle, Moses Moody's calf. We'll talk about that. Steph Curry back for the game on Tuesday against Portland. That is next up in terms of the preseason schedule. And then Quentin Post and Trace Jackson-Davis, the two very different skill sets they bring to the table, but why it's important to have both respectively. What is going on, everyone? How are we feeling? Ready to get into some real basketball. I've been trying to get as invested as possible in this preseason, but stars are missing. Left and right, you get the great Matas Bazelis games to watch. You get the Kel'el Ware games. You get the Brandin Podziemski games. You're seeing guys that are kind of on the cusp of taking that next step, have the opportunities to kind of lead the way right now. Unfortunately, though, for content, it's hard to dissect it too much because Brandin Podziemski most likely is not going to be in a situation this year where he is the main dude on the Warriors. And if so, it better, sweet Jesus, it better only be for a game or two. No disrespect to Podziemski. That just means you're missing Curry and Butler and maybe even Moses Moody, and that would suck. But Podziemski was good. In his opportunity to kind of lead the team, he went for 23 points, an efficient 23. I liked how he was pulling up both left corner and right corner with a little fade. I think when he pulled up from the left side, actually, it wasn't a pull up from the left side. It was a floater from the left side, and then showed on the right side that he could kind of fade to his right, lean to his right, and still knock it down with his left hand. Any lefties out there, because I'm a lefty. One, I'm not ever attempting that move because my right hand was not strong. But even if you do have that right hand, that's a tough shot. Fading away, that is a very difficult shot. Inverse it with the right-handers going to the left side. Not easy. He made it. He had 23 points and 8 assists and was efficient getting there. 10 of 16 from the floor, 3 of 7 from three-point range, grabbed 5 rebounds. It's what he does. Had 8 assists, only turned it over twice, and was a +6, best on the team of anyone. Gary Payton II was second on the team at a +5. But look, at a certain point, the plus minus, you can't use it to describe an entire player's career and whether they're worthy of more minutes or less, but you can definitely use it as a tool. And at some point, the proof has to be in the pudding that usually whenever he's on the floor, the team has the best plus minus. And a lot of times it's because of the unsung things. This game, it was not the unsung things. He was scoring. He was dishing. If Brandin Podziemski at any point in his career is a 23, 8, and 5 player consistently, I mean, you got yourself a hell of a steal midway to the late stages of the first round. Steve Kerr's loved what Podziemski has brought to the team this offseason and just in general to the to camp. Says he's been one of the best Warriors on the team, and here he is.
Yeah, he was great. He's been really aggressive throughout camp. I know he didn't score particularly well the first 2 games, but this is more like what he's looked like in practice scrimmages. Super aggressive, very confident with his shot, moving the ball. 8 assists tonight. He just has a good feel and a good flow, good pace to his game, and he was definitely aggressive and playing at a high level. I think he knew without Steph and Jimmy, he needed to be more aggressive.
There was a comment that he had in an article about 2 weeks back at this point. Probably during the summer would have been our big story. Headlines would have made the thumbnail, but it was opening preseason night, and we wanted to talk some basketball, not a juicy quote. But Podziemski talked about how eventually someone's got to be handed over the keys. Eventually Curry, Butler, Draymond, that entire crew, they're leaving, and someone has to be willing to accept the keys, and he wants to be that guy that takes over and is the Warriors combo guard of the future, someone that can score, that can defend, that can rebound, that can take charges, that can connect, that can lead, all these things that they'd be looking for in a leader. And I don't think he's ever going to be that. I'm pretty confident he's never going to be a true number one. But what this showed you is that, one, he's got a lot of moves in his bag when he gets some confidence, because he put up 16 shots in the game. That's something that I guess in the playoffs last year he was doing a little bit of. But typically speaking, you're not getting 16 looks from Podziemski in a game. Those are more Curry numbers. But with Curry off the floor, someone's got to generate the offense. And look, Kuminga and Podziemski combined for 14 assists in the game. They were doing their part in terms of facilitating. I thought Kuminga played within the flow of the offense and looked really good. The one issue that you have is the fact that he's 6'8" and can jump out of the gym and didn't have a single rebound in 22 minutes. That's almost hard to do. Podziemski had 5 of them. But whatever, we'll look past that for the current moment, and we'll just talk of who's around these players right now. Draymond Green's a nothing burger on offense. We've known this for a long time. You got Quentin Post, Buddy Hield, who went 0 of 3 from three-point range. So you got the bad Buddy. We all know at this point what Buddy Hield is. And there were moments last winter where you kind of wrote him off because you got bad Buddy for so long. But good Buddy came at the right time and showed all of us that you throw him out there in a game 7 and he catches some heat. That dude's a game changer. But he's not a game changer when he goes 0 for 3. And usually when he starts 0 for 3, he's not going 6 for 9. Doesn't heat up like that typically. Early, usually. And then the other offensive players around him were Guy Santos, Gary Payton, Pat Spencer. You ran Will Richard out there for 23 minutes, who looks like he belongs on an NBA floor to a degree, but not scoring the basketball. Like what I saw yesterday, the fact that they scored 116 points is truly remarkable, because offensively, in terms of just individual talent, you take Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler and Moses Moody off the floor, and they suck. I mean, they just, from an offensive perspective alone, they don't have it. They don't have the horses in the barn. The good news, Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler, at least Steph Curry is expected to play on Tuesday against the Blazers. Jimmy Butler could be available by the Friday preseason game, and Moses Moody may be back in time for the regular season or maybe just miss a week. Regardless, injuries are always going to be the number one thing on our minds with this team because of this load management game. You lose a Curry, you lose a Butler, either or, and if you lose both, you're left with 20 minutes of Trace, 19 minutes of Guy Santos, 15 of Gary Payton II, and look, you're paying 3 dudes for that matter, $150 million. And DeAnthony Melton's injured, and Seth Curry's injured, and Al Horford didn't play in the game. Something's got to give. Case in point, though, you got to have Curry and Butler out there. The easiest statement to make on a podcast of all time. Talk about a hot take. You really need Steph Curry and Jimmy Butler out there. Your team's just not that good. And you could use Moses Moody too to start the season. So keep an eye on Jimmy Butler's ankle. It was swollen. We remember before Preseason game 1, this was a talking point. Healed up. It swelled up again. Moses Moody's dealing with calf. Probably nothing. Steve Kerr's not concerned about it. But that's the last thing you want to hear in the preseason. You want to go into the year healthy. And as of right now, minor injuries. But that's a word we do not want to hear this season, is injuries. Let's get into Jonathan Kuminga when we return. Steve Kerr talks about what he's really liked from him this camp. And we'll just tease ahead straight to it. The passing. Simple as that. Jonathan Kuminga has been a very good facilitator and has impressed his head coach this preseason and camp. We're going to discuss that coming up on Locked On Warriors.
Who can stop Steph Curry?
Hopefully we'll never find out.
Today's episode is brought to you by America's #1 sportsbook. That is FanDuel. Now's a great time to get in on the action because the NFL season is here and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. New customers, bet just $5, you'll get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right, pick a bet, put down $5. If it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets that you can use across the app. Great things about FanDuel. Live lines, of course. You missed the start of the game, doesn't matter, still get on the action. Sometimes it's good to miss the start of the game because you get a better line. You also got player props, futures bets. If you want to make some sort of a wager, FanDuel has the option to get it done. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Today's episode is also brought to you by our friends over at Monarch Money. Always a great time to get in on Monarch Money because financials are important, and let's get real. We don't really know our net worth typically. You got 401ks, properties, investments, different bank accounts, credit card debt. You don't have the full picture. And sometimes when you don't have the full picture, you're leaving money on the table. That's why there's Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or on your phone. It's built for people with busy lives. If you've put off organizing your finances, Monarch is for you. It does the heavy lifting, link all your accounts together, see what you're worth, see your debts, pay off your debts, make goals, figure out what you're spending, where you're spending it, any subscriptions you're not using. Monarch will take care of you. So don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNBA at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com/LOCKEDONNBA.
Forget that. We champs. Why are you starting with that question? We got 4 championships.
Jonathan Kuminga's game against the Lakers was pretty good. 5 of 8 from the floor, hit one of his 3 3-pointers, 6 assists, and 5 turnovers. Now, I will say, when you go back and look at some of the film from the game, they weren't egregious turnovers. One was, I think one was a block shot. One was just driving down the lane and getting stripped, which happens way too often. And that's why I'm excited to see this new pass first Kuminga. When he doesn't have anything, take what the defense gives you and kick it. And then another one, I believe, was a cross-court pass that is a no-no in the game. But, hey, it shows him trying to be aggressive. And as long as he learns from his mistake, then make all the mistakes you want in the preseason. But had 13 points, 0 rebounds. That's obviously a talking point. It's hard to grab 0 rebounds. I mean, every player that saw minutes for the Warriors minus LJ Cryer grabbed a rebound, but Jonathan Kuminga. Now, Draymond only had 1, and Jackson Rowe only had 1, but everyone grabbed 1 but Jonathan Kuminga, and that's one of the things that Steve Kerr has wanted him to really focus on in the offseason is crash the glass. But, hey, if he didn't do that in this specific game, he had done it in prior games, or at least game 1. And the one thing that we've now seen 3 straight games of Jonathan Kuminga is not forcing it, making the easy play, trusting his teammates, trusting the fact that kicking it out, even if it's Gary Payton on the right wing for a wide open 3, is better than an ISO take into taller defenders at any point. Keep flowing the offense, and that's something that Jonathan Kuminga has done a very good job on, per Steve Kerr.
I think he's had a really good passing camp. He's done that in scrimmages. He's seeing the floor well. He's making some really nice reads, and that's a part of his game that he's improved for sure. I thought tonight he he ran the floor hard. He had a couple plays in the third quarter where he sprinted and took a defender with him, and we got shots behind the play, and that's a hugely important trait that we need from everybody, but especially from him, given his speed, because those often lead to layups for him or putbacks. So when he sprints like that and the ball moves, then he can really take advantage of his athleticism. So JK's having a good camp.
I think the most fun way to enjoy just basketball and Warriors basketball specifically, and not getting too caught up in everything with Jonathan Kuminga, is just lowering the ceiling a bit. There have been so many, and Joe Lacob has a little bit to do with it because he's peppered the ego quite a bit. But to say superstar and all these different things, let's just treat him like a solid role player that, may not ever live up to lottery pick top 10 status. Okay. A few picks behind him was, I mean, God, I can't even think of the dude's name from UConn that hasn't even been in the league for like 3 years at this point. Off to a better start than Corey Kispert, probably. Like, there are players around him in the draft. I mean, Chris Duarte, who got off to a hot start that I don't even know if he's gotten cups of coffee lately. So if you look at it in that realm and just look at Kuminga for the player that he is right now, and it's a flawed 22-year-old that has a ton of talent, that has some good games and some bad games, is not that consistent, and may or may not be a part of the future. It's a lot more fun to watch him rather than putting these expectations that he's going to be some superstar, because I'm going to say it right now. With the Warriors, I just don't see it. I don't see it. I mean, I thought Pods was the featured guy on the floor. Pods is younger than Kuminga. He's been in the league half as long, and he's the featured guy. I just don't think it's going to be Kuminga's team at any point. And that Minnesota series last year, he came out guns a-blazing. He can do that. Can he consistently do it? I don't know. But what we did see is someone that was a willing passer, and that's the first step to being a good passer. You got to at least be a willing passer. And don't take my word for it. Steve Kerr said he was impressed. And we all know that Steve Kerr will tell it like it is with Jonathan Kuminga. Although there is some incentive there to kind of talk him up as a facilitator if you're including him in some sort of trade package later on in the season. But some careless mistakes in the previous game, I thought. It was a lot worse, and it did not seem like his head was in the game against, was that Portland? Yeah, Portland, game 2, where there was a backcourt deflection that went the other way for points. There was an inbounds play where I think Jimmy tried to get him the ball, and he kind of just stood there and didn't come towards the ball, and it was tipped out of bounds, and Jimmy's just kind of like urgency. I think that's a word that is really important for Jonathan Kuminga, because there's got to be a meet in the middle moment in terms of urgency. Like, you see the urgency sometimes where he just gets it and tunnel vision, he's going to go, get stripped. We've also seen now the patience to where he brings up the floor. He's not going for his own. He's surveying, and he goes with a nice bounce pass to Buddy Hield. And quite frankly, I feel like all his nice bounce passes this preseason have gone to Buddy Hield in the open court for layups. So, hey, nice little connection there. But you got to meet in the middle with that urgency and that patience. He's got to know when to go, and that's just a feel for the game. And look, he's 22, still figuring it out. He's not a finished product by any means. And if you just look at him as a 22-year-old that's on a mid-20s contract and can give you 13 points and 6 assists, hopefully a few rebounds as well, I mean, he's an important piece to winning. He runs the floor. If he can run the floor and affect the game with just his athleticism, his size, his wingspan, his ability to defend on the ball, I just went up and down the roster. Like Jackson Rowe, Pat Spencer, Will Richard. You don't have enough horses in the barn to have a situation where Jonathan Kuminga in a load management game is not getting 22 minutes and being a featured part of the offense. And look, he's going to naturally score 5 of 8, 13 points. He really didn't look for a shot, minus a back down where he just abused. Was it Dalton Connect or was it Reeves? I want to say it was Dalton Connect, but Connect didn't even have a chance. He just hit the spin cycle on him and laid it up and in with ease, and then ruined his life, I think, in the open court with a breakaway dunk. He gives you those moments. Consistently, will he put them together at all points and be a consistent all-star like he believes? My opinion, no. Does my opinion mean anything? No. Also no. But that's just the way I feel. And it is worth noting that he was a team worst for anyone over 20 minutes in the game, minus 10. So again, you look at that plus minus, Podziemski always in the plus, Jonathan Kuminga always in the minus. You can't specifically look at, but you can use it as a tool to some degree. However, I don't think Kuminga necessarily played a bad game aside from a few of those turnovers, with that cross-court pass being one that he really has to learn from. Anyways, let's continue on this program. The rotation. What's the Warriors' rotation going to look like near the bottom of the bench? Quentin Post, Trace Jackson-Davis, who's going to be seeing more minutes between the two? I think it's an easy answer, but we'll debate that. And we will also talk about some players around the league that have excelled beyond expectations this preseason. Some of the players that I like, that I want to keep an eye on. We're discussing that coming up on Locked On Dubs. Today's episode is brought to you by Peloton. Now's a great time to get in on a brand new Peloton cross-training Tread Plus. It's powered by Peloton IQ. It's their most advanced equipment yet, designed to give you real-time guidance and endless ways to move, whether you're running, lifting, or cross-training with your favorite instructors. This is training reimagined. Peloton's built for breakthroughs with tools that help you plan, stay motivated, and reach your peak performance. Their Peloton IQ system offers real-time strength coaching, which tracks your reps. It suggests the right weights. It corrects your form. It makes every rep safer and smarter. They got a swivel screen that allows you to go from on the treadmill to flip it over and do something on the floor with some weights. So let yourself run, lift, flex, and push forward. Explore the new Peloton Cross-Training Tread Plus today at onepeloton.com.
And buddy, stop trying to dribble the ball.
All right, so the rotation right now for the Warriors is very tough to gauge. Kerr has talked about the starting lineups and has alluded to the fact that Al Horford may not actually start. Lineups are tricky. First, it was trades are hard. Now lineups are tricky, especially when you have a lot of moving pieces, injuries. You don't know who's going to be available for opening night. Was Moses Moody penciled in? And now all of a sudden you got to get the eraser, one of those big erasers back in the day in middle school, to erase the cursive that, for whatever reason, I was taught and don't do anything with. Paid how much for school to learn cursive? Anyway, I guess you got to have an autograph. Although I'm getting these rookie cards nowadays. By the way, I'm a full-fledged Panini card addict, clearing the shelf. What a hobby. I completely forgot how fun opening card. I feel like Charlie Bucket looking for a golden ticket. I'm getting Kylan upstairs to order 7 boxes of the Black Prisms, and it's like the Veruca Salt scene where they're all looking for the golden tickets. Unfortunately, we haven't found a numbered Steph Curry card, but we're looking. We're scouring far and wide. Anyways, from the cards back to reality, and I have no idea what I was even talking about, so I'm going to continue with their starting lineup and their rotation in general and who's going to be available. Will we see Seth game 1? Will we see Melton before December, before November 15th, before Thanksgiving? That obviously has a lot to play into what Steve Kerr decides to do moving forward. But we'll be under the assumption that Moody's going to be good to go, close to opening night. Pods was not gifted a starting spot in the press conference after the game. I think it was for Dell. Asked him, hey, bunch of dudes hurt. Pods looks good. You ready to put Pods in there? And that's where he got into, lineups are tricky. Al Horford's old. We want to play him in finishing lineups. Therefore, does it make sense to play him in starting lineups? Maybe keep his minutes down. I would think, and Kolsky thought otherwise, but I would think that lineup that won a bunch of games last year would start it off this year. Starting lineups are not the end of the world. We know this. Many, many, many times. I mean, perfect example. NBA 2K11, you play with the Oklahoma City Thunder, you got Cephalosha starting over Harden. Did anyone ever turn on 2K11 and, start the game, tip it off, and say, all right, we're focusing on defense tonight. We're going Cephalosha. Harden, you're going to sit on the bench for the first 5 minutes. No, you were putting in Harden because he was the more important player at that time. He just didn't happen to start, and that'll happen from time to time. But Moody and Pods, extremely important members of this team, and you don't even have a chance to tinker with Melton for a while now. So who knows if he will be the potential starting shooting guard like he was to start last season. In terms of the bigs, Trayce Jackson-Davis and Quentin Post, both extremely flawed players, but both in their own ways have extremely valuable skill sets specifically to this team. Quentin Post can shoot. He's a legit 40% three-point shooter that has a high release. He's 7 feet tall. He can actually catch the basketball and move. He's not an oaf. With all due respect to many of the 7-foot projects out there that are raw and that aren't good offensively, he's got a little bit of skill to him, a little bit of finesse, can bang in the paint more than he gets credit for. And again, the reason he's out there is because he can hit 3 to 5 threes in your face and do it at a very high clip. He's an elite shooter. Trayce Jackson-Davis, on the other side, had a better game than Post with 14, 7, 2 blocks on an efficient 7 for 9. But good God, he can't do anything outside of 6 feet. Like, truly. Free throws aren't a thing of beauty. I would have to guess over under, I'm going to say the FanDuel Sportsbook app set it at 57%. Wow, I was very close. For his career, 56.8% from the charity stripe. I don't think I've ever seen him take an elbow jumper. Definitely never seen him take a three-pointer. I don't think I've seen him do any sort of facing the basket move that didn't end in some sort of a dunk or layup. Like, he just does not have any sort of skills to put the ball in the basket. But what he is a vertical threat. He's probably got the best leaping ability of your bigs, not named Kuminga. He can grab rebounds. He can defend the rim a little bit. And in certain matchups, he's solid. And he's also 6 fouls that you can use when some other players are in foul trouble, which is crucial because you got an aging player in Al Horford. You got Quentin Post, who can be unplayable in certain situations. You can play him off the floor defensively. And now you have that third option that you can kind of rely on, who last year was Kevon Looney. When he had a game like Houston, where they wanted to play big, they were physical, they were tough. You wanted to slow down the game to a certain degree and set hard screens and match their physicality. That's where Looney came in. Trayce Jackson-Davis, not the same type of player, but inversely, if you get a team that does have a threat down low that's big, like a DeAndre Ayton, who is pretty efficient in the game and went to work, or a Jackson Hayes, not that he's doing a ton offensively, but he's bouncy. You can match him with someone like Trayce Jackson-Davis. It's not a bad thing to have when you just lack size as a whole. So that two-headed monster's a stretch, but that two-headed bench unit, it's better than nothing, right? Don't think either of them are taking some massive leap, but Trayce Jackson-Davis has played his best basketball in the last 3-4 times we've seen him on the floor, frankly, with some of the games in the Minnesota series. And Quentin Post is someone that can legit give you 20 in a playoff game. He can go atomic from deep, and that's a skill set that's huge to have, especially when Buddy's not knocking him down. You can give it to Post. And Pods, being a legit 40% three-point shooter this year, would unlock just about everything, it feels like, for the Warriors. So that's kind of a look at how they stand. We've seen a lot of Pat Spencer. Don't tell Kolsky. We've seen not as much LJ Cryer, who I would love to see a minute swap for at least one game. I just want LJ Cryer to get 25 to 30 minutes of PT, enough to the point where it's a situation where the other team's calling multiple timeouts to basically throw different looks at him. LJ Cryer is tiny. That's the reason he's not in the league. He's skilled. He could shoot. He plays his ass off. He knows how to play. Gamer, scrappy, everything you want to say about a 6 foot, 200-pound guy. But he's tiny. He's a really little dude out there. And because of that, you would have to think when the competition steps up and players like Luka and LeBron and Reeves was playing in this game, but Vando and all the mainstays of the Lakers or the Blazers are on the floor, that they could scheme LJ Cryer out of the game. And look, he's confident. He shoots with confidence, but he's 6 feet. And that is oftentimes the outlier between a really good point guard and someone that is playing in Shanghai. The fact that he is 6 feet tall. But I want to see that he can't hold his own. I want to see it, especially in the preseason. Pat Spencer, we know what he brings. He's on a 2-way contract. We're not learning anything new about Pat Spencer. Has he improved since last season? Possibly so. Probably so. But LJ Cryer, as of right now, even though he's 24, probably the same age as Pat Spencer with how old these college guys are nowadays, he just led his team to the national championship in college. So he was up for that challenge. Would love to see if he's up for the NBA's challenge. And thus far, every time they've put him on the floor, the teams look pretty good. And he's been able to really, really shoot it. So I'd like to see a little bit more of LJ Cryer. Anyways, that's a show. This is Locked On Warriors. We got the live post-game edition, Blazers and Warriors, Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, tip-off, local time. I believe the game's in Portland, but honestly, I don't even know. I'll give it to you, though, since that's what we do on this program. We give it to you live. The Warriors on Tuesday, it is in Portland. Yes, indeed it is. And by the way, for those of you that want to know about some of the action tonight around the NBA player-wise, Wembanyama is a freak. We know this. He had 27-11 for the Spurs. Benedict Mathurin in that game had 31 for the Pacers. Keep an eye on Mathurin now that Tyrese Halliburton is out for the season and they need Mathurin to kind of shoulder the load. Let's see if he does do that. Let's see if he becomes kind of a rising star in this league and if the Pacers can maybe continue to surprise with this strength in numbers, a bunch of really good players mentality that they have going on. Dillingham had 27, Rob Dillingham for the Minnesota Timberwolves in a game against the Lions of, is it Loon? I don't even know. I think it's in Asia. Kaminsky's on the team. I know that. He had 10 and 8. The old Wisconsin Badgers, Frank Kaminsky. Khalil Ware had 24 the other night. Montes Pazelis had 19. Cooper Flagg is playing right now with about 7 minutes left and is 3 of 13 from the floor with 11 points and 7 rebounds. So that'll be the question with Flagg. Can he put the ball in the basket? We know he's going to rebound and defend at a pretty good level. So he definitely is a day one NBA ready type of guy. The question is, can he be a scorer or is he just going to affect the game in other ways to start as he kind of figures out how to navigate NBA defenses? Anyways, this is Locked On Warriors. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Peace.